Hey guys, Dr. Jelani here. So I want to talk about this EMR system that I aspire to create. So I think with the advent of AI, it's going to make it a lot easier. There's just so many rudimentary things to get through to execute on it, and I thought that it's going to cost a lot of money. So I'd have to have a certain amount of wealth to even start this endeavor and have the right amount of developers. I tried to do it with some like extended family members. The algorithms of if then to get through care. I was speaking on a different video about how this isn't something that I think that like even like a Google or Oracle can necessarily front run, because there's some intimate knowledge within hospitals and different hospitals, inter-hospitals, that is very unique knowledge, like time limitations, access limitations, quality limitations, that make the optimized EMR different for different settings. The right type of care for a Kaiser will not be the right type of care for a UCLA, Stanford, or UCSF, or Cedar Sinai, because it matters what type of it matters what type of insurance, it matters what type of quality of access to, and even say like the hospital in Ohio or Michigan. If you're in a remote area, what will get you to your benchmarks with the access that you have? So, and it has to be done in a legally compliant way. So, how do you and I've been secretly getting into hey, does this push the legal boundary of this type, doing these types of things? Does this, how much of the data can you extract from a nurse's input and execute? Because you're basically trying to create this EMR system to be a hospitalist. Some people like to refer to hospice as a captain of the ship. In some certain circumstances, yeah. In other circumstances, it doesn't. Even though the internal medicine doctor is the primary, doesn't really work like that. But there are certain things that you could do to progress the care, keep it going, keep the time tight, and and then there's different things to answer. There's the textbook knowledge that you want to give priority to in most circumstances, and making sure things are done right. But then there's also this insurance component. There's also this Medicare guidelines component, and you want to incorporate all these and fine tune them for each and every situation. So these are things that have been marinating in my head for almost about 7 years now, and I feel ready to create this EMR system that will improve hospital care and have dramatic effects where staff is tight, where access is poor, where maybe even getting a hospitalist is very difficult. The EMR system can't do any kind of procedures, but there's a lot of cerebral medicine that goes into each patient, each encounter that population are just not aware of. Administration for hospitals and know about it, but maybe it takes going through medical school and some experience to like really putting it together. So these are some things that I think can be translated in an EMR in the next generation of EMR systems that I want to be a part of. I want to be the one mastering it, and I want to bring it to the masses, and I want to be the one that takes the cake, the one that really, whether I do a collaboration with, like, say, an Oracle or a Google or myself, that I want to be at the forefront of this, leading this change, transforming healthcare on a broad level, bringing an American standard of care to a third world country like Bangladesh, or a country in Africa, or Pakistan. I remember there was an earthquake in Pakistan, and a group of us went to Kashmir to do pro bono work. It's pretty crazy coming from America to think how little access they have to everything. I mean, it was crazy. I remember we were intubating newborns, and we would have like a nurse bag and mask them all night because we didn't have a ventilator, and like the nurse would like fall asleep overnight sometimes, and then the baby would pass away because there was no one to bag and mask them. It was done manually. I mean, it's just like we didn't have the right pain meds. We had to like hold patients down so that they weren't like writhing around while they're getting a surgery because it was so painful, because they just didn't have pain meds. They didn't have IV pain meds there. I mean, it was some wild stuff. Wild. I mean, like, it just makes you so grateful for everything in America. Oh my God, America's amazing. People like to shit on what we got here, but we got it good. You know, I was raised in Orange County, and I've had a great life. I got to go to a great school. America's amazing. We were making America great again, but honestly, like, our expectations and our scale are just completely different. You know, we're the forefront of everything, right? You know, Japan and China, they're doing amazing things. I mean, I've been to China. It's like so technologically advanced. It's crazy, but we got something else different here in America. We're just you know, even if we're behind a little, you know, we can sprint and get right back to the front, you know? So this is land of capitalism, land of opportunity. You know, it's supposed to be one nation under God. I want to keep it that way. And on that note, you know, there's not just legality, but there's also morality behind it too. I'm very God conscious. I love God. I love Jesus, of course. I love the prophets. Moses too. Actually, I even named my kid Moses. Muhammad, of course. God is God. There's been, you know, God was for all people of all time. So I think the chosen people are those that follow God, and there's a lot that do, and there's many more that don't. But religion aside, I have even atheist friends, and a good-hearted person is still has some destiny to the heavens that God created, because he will look at, I think, morality. And I think incorporating morality in a time of AI, or you could use it for really bad things. You can use anything for bad things. You can use internet for bad things, right? You can use blockchain for bad things. You can use it for great things. People used to think that blockchain was, when I got into blockchain about 2020, 2021. People like, oh yeah, this is anti-government. I'm like, nah, this is like 100% government. Everything is clear to see on the blockchain. You could track monetary policy. I remember I was part of the French blockchain summit, and while everybody's talking about how this is anti-government, we love it, and the French summit is talking about, yeah, this is gonna put government on steroids, be able to really look through things. And I like order. I like rules. I like foundations. I think it's a different question whether your government is good or corrupt or half corrupt or has little things here and there that's not good. But in general, the idea of government, I think, is necessary. Is necessary for a population. It's a good thing. So I've always thought that blockchain was very pro-government, and lo and behold, we're in 2025, and they want the Genius Act, the Genius Bill is gonna incorporate cryptocurrency and blockchain. For those of you that don't really understand what cryptocurrency or blockchain is, blockchain is like a distributed ledger. What does that mean? So say you have an accountant, right? And he writes something down. Now, somebody in France is not going to know what your accountant in Newport Beach is writing down. But if your accounting went to many different accountants all over the world, then everybody has, basically your accounting. So you think of these many different accounts as, we call them nodes, and because there's many nodes that carry the same exact information, they can verify that this is true and accurate. So if somebody comes and tries to meddle with your accounting in France, but you have already distributed it to Italy and Great Britain and US and Spain, that everyone has this original form of your accounting, then you know that it's someone that tried to change that one that's actually wrong and incorrect, and it'll go back to the distributed the consensus. We call it consensus. So how does crypto play a role? So crypto is like, okay, so you want to give it an analogy that it carries some value, has some money, but it's something that you could track on this blockchain, right? So if I send this money to you and you send it to my mom, and my mom sends it to my sister, and my sister sends it to me, and I send it back to you, well, this same, say dollar in person, or this cryptocurrency, you can watch it go from here to there, to there, to there, to there, back to me, back to you, and wherever it might go next. So the fact that you're tracking it makes this blockchain so valuable, and why people really have this hyper focus on the cryptocurrency, because people are making some people are making crazy money off of it, but really the real technology is going to be the blockchain itself. Is the blockchain itself, whether Bitcoin becomes the standard of payment solutions, or if like Ethereum or USDT or USDC, which is like stable coin, just a stable coin, they peg them to $1. So say one USDT or one USDC equals $1. What doesn't matter which one is used, at the end of the day, you're following and tracking it to a T on the blockchain, and that's what's really important. And why I'm talking about this blockchain and explaining it is that next level of the EMR system, when you oracleize data, which means you could take a snapshot of data. Say like I have 50 patients with CHF, right? And I want to extract from their all the blood pressure medications they're on. So forget the name of the individual. We can keep that hidden, but we can oracleize all the medications and outcomes for all CHF patients by creating these chain links. I'm an investor in Chainlink. I own a lot of Link. I own some Link token. I think that's the future, really. I think, and the government's getting very hard behind it. They've named Chainlink and Pith the basically the future of oracles for blockchain. I think when as people use their own blockchains, they're going to communicate amongst one each other. They're going to oracleize the data, meaning kind of like package it. Let's just kind of layman it somehow, layman term it somehow, and be able to use it across different chain, which colloquially is called cross chain. So moving it from one blockchain to another, because like you think about one blockchain is like one distributed ledger, another blockchain is another distributed ledger. It means a lot of different computers have all the information for an Avalanche blockchain, or all the different information for Ethereum blockchain or Bitcoin's blockchain. So I think like being a master of the care of an individual, and being kind of like that Harvard medical student that basically gathers all the data and does everything perfectly for you. Interesting fact, I did a rotation out at Beth Israel, which is one of the 3 Harvard hospitals, and I work with these medical students, these Harvard medical students, and they're so smart. They're cocky, and they deserve to be cocky. They know so much. They know as much as like doctors, and they're very, very, very smart. And they don't know everything they think they do, because they're still students at the end of the day. But they're and I did this rotation when I was in residency. I was pretty good. I graduated top of my class. But these Harvard students, I'm not talking about the medical students. I'm not talking about residents. They were just like perfect at gathering information, analyzing data. I'm telling you, they didn't know everything they thought they did, but it's not just a matter of time between they did. But this EMR system would be like having that Harvard student with you. Like, they can get you very close. At the end of the day, they're not the doctor, and not gonna really take the ownership of the liability, right? So I think this is understanding what that is very important for the next generation EMR. And then the follow-up to that is creating these blockchain, oracleizing the data, and creating an informational hub for hospital systems, so that I can tell you the same information between 2 hospitals in Bakersfield, at a Mercy and a Memorial Hospital. They don't even have the same information, even with the same cerner. So it's crazy that you have to go there and spend time to extract it. So they both use cerner, so I find that kind of weird that happens. Not often, but sometimes, very rarely, because they're using the same exact EMR, so it's kind of weird for it to even happen a little bit, but it does. It does. It's not readily evident sometimes. The things are a little different between the hospitals, even though they're both should be very similar. So I think these are things that need to be fine-tuned and ironed out, and that next gen of EMR can do that. And as I'm telling you that these kinds of things can be seen between very similar hospital systems on the same EMR, this problem exacerbates between hospitals that are not linked up. Even if they're local or not local. Like say someone moves from Utah to California or California to Texas. There's been a big exodus of Californians going to Texas. Texas is an amazing place. I've worked in Austin. I can see why people would move. I personally love California, and I don't see myself ever leaving. If I do, I would come right back after a short amount of time. I absolutely love California, Orange County. I'm starting to love LA too now. It's a little slow for me because it's a different pace than Orange County, but I'm really liking it there too. But like transferring this data and having instant ownership of the most up-to-date information of a patient, something that medicine lacks. And you don't have to go to that extreme of being interstate, but I'm just saying even on a local level between, like, say, a Cedars-Sinai and a UCLA hospital. I mean, it takes time to get that information, and even then they're using very similar EMR systems, but they're on a different track. Even when they're using the same EMR system and on the same track, you can see some discrepancies, although they're much, much, much rarer. Like this example that I'm giving you in Dignity Health for Memorial and Dignity Health for Mercy in Bakersfield, you would expect everything to be like exactly the same and access same, but they're even sometimes you can see catch some like very minute differences. But why would there be any differences? So that only gets exacerbated between, say, like in my residency, Cerner was used, but the information on the patient is not accessible to a different Cerner user at a different hospital. In Palm Springs we use Cerner, but it's not, they even had different tiers of Cerner and different upgrades for Cerner. So even ordering stuff was different, which is weird. I remember I go to a hospital, be like, yeah, they use Cerner, great, I love it. But like the way they order stuff it has different nomenclature. Like you call it something else, and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. You have to the laboratory value is called something else. So it's kind of like I guess when you're in the early on, it's kind of like a brain teaser to figure out like what kind of language they use. I found this more of a real, not really a problem with Cerner, but more of a problem with like something called like a Meditech, where they just name things completely differently, and it was very difficult. So I see that the future is going to involve blockchain in healthcare, and it's going to have more exact, more transmission of people's data, and then that can be oracleized and divided up in many different ways for advertisers, for the sake of the patient's well-being, have instant medication list right when they get to the hospital rather than on day 2. The pharmacy going over with the pharmacist, but maybe the pharmacist in the hospital going over the medications with a pharmacy, but actually the patient had some changes because the cardiologist said, hey, no, start taking a half tab of this, and then getting that full tab, and then that causing some deleterious effect in the blood pressure. Like how does the hospital know that? When the patient gets upset, but they're unconscious, and the family didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like a family doesn't know, patient doesn't know, doctor's going by what the pharmacy is giving them as the home meds. they're apparently not taking this. They just got changed within the last month. But there's just that. It's just there's not a centralized database, you know. So like it's easy to point a finger and say it's his fault. It's his fault. It's their fault. The hospital's dumb. The doctor doesn't know what he's doing. But you know, when you have outdated information and you're working on top of that, that's where these problems can arise. So yeah, you know, the doctor figures it out pretty quickly, makes the adjustment. But some patients will be like, oh my God, the doctor didn't know my medications. Well, no, it's not. You know, just he's not. You know, nobody's God here. Nobody is omniscient. There needs to be like proper documentation. So I think that goes back to this remote patient monitoring and chronic care management. How valuable it is. That there's just good documentation of objective findings. You know, even I think an assessment and plan and a physician's note to some degree can have variability between different doctors, but there's just like, you know, taking vitals. I think no matter what, that is your objective finding. Your labs are your objective finding, and it will never be different no matter who you take it to. Maybe interpreted slightly different by, you know, different providers, but that doesn't mean that it changes the objective portion of you know, what you are put together of. So that's why I really like this remote patient monitoring. You know, you can't deny that your heart rate was 100 today, was 130 today, and it was temporary. You can't. That's undeniable. Whether you know, whether it's due to AFib or A-flutter, atrial fibrillation or atrial flutter, or supraventricular tachycardia with some aberrancy, or you know, maybe an MP would diagnose it one way, and then a doctor would diagnose it a slightly different way. You know, that, you know, so I think that, you know, sharing doctor's notes and stuff has some variability, right? It's not going to be exactly the same between one provider and another, but these types of data, they are 100% you. They are made for you. They came from you, and they're your data. And you know, how often a CHF patient's heart rate is above 100, like 20% of the time, versus someone who's better controlled and his heart rate is 95% of the time between the range of 70 and 80. I think these kinds of things make chronic care management and remote monitoring so valuable. And then this, you know, in terms of what I'm doing, would bring a will eventually bring an EMR system that can run a hospital or different types of hospitals in different variations optimally, considering all types of things, insurance, sepsis protocols, textbook medicine, who it pertains to, who would realistically have access to even get that information and that recommendation, rather than just being an empty recommendation for someone that can't do anything about it anyways. This is the future. So thanks. Good to leave a like, and I will talk to you later.